Hello YouTube, how's it going? This is the crossover and I'm back with another video. Today is going to be another one of my individual scouting reports for the 2022 NBA draft. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Arizona guard Dalen Terry. So without any further delay, let's get straight into the video. Moving on, we do have some stats to discuss regarding Dalen Terry as he is 19 years old, stands at about 6 feet 7 inches, weighs about 210 pounds, and has a 7-foot wingspan. Very, very impressive physical profile for Dalen. Very long, lanky, athletic, 6'7" wing slash guard, really more so of a guard, as we can tell by not only his play style, but his stats. As this was his second year, sophomore year at Arizona, where he did average 8 points. Pretty much 5 rebounds, 4.8 rebounds, pretty much 4 assists, 3.9 assists, 1.2 steals per game. Solid counting stats, as you guys can tell, with basically those 4 assists. He was pretty much, not necessarily an on-ball guard. He kind of played a little bit on and off ball, but as you guys can tell, he's a playmaker. Very solid all-around game with the rebounds. Not a high point total, which is something that we will discuss later on in the video. However, solid all-around numbers for Dalen Terry, as he was a key cog in one of the more dominant teams in the country this past season. Also, the efficiency numbers are very solid as well, where he does have a 56.3 effective field goal percentage, which is very solid. He shot 73.6% from the free throw line, which isn't bad, but it's decent. It's decent. It's not bad. And he also shot an impressive 36.4% from the 3-point line. So overall, very impressive all-around numbers for Dalen Terry. Moving on to Dalen Terry's strengths as a prospect, first up I do want to discuss his off-ball scoring, which was his primary way of putting the ball in the basket for the Wildcats this season, as he wasn't tasked with being one of their primary creators and was really just responsible for being one of the glue guys out there, which is a role that he filled as good as anybody could have asked of him this season. As I think Dalen Terry did a great job of recognizing when to hit his defender, with not only face cuts but also backdoor cuts, got himself open a lot of times. I think he put himself in positions to grab offensive rebounds a lot of time and put the ball back up. And I think he did a good job of just attacking off the catch and just getting to the rim, a lot of quick and efficient baskets when Dalen Terry was scoring. And I think he also did a great job of recognizing when to leak out in transition, recognizing when the other team was about to turn the ball over and, getting himself out, in the open floor so that he can get up layups and dunks. Another one of Dalen Terry's strengths is also his playmaking, which, again, he wasn't necessarily great as a creator, but I think he did show some flashes in terms of being able to hit, his big men when they were rolling to the rim. And I think he also did a good job of hitting open shooters this season. However, I think where Dalen Terry really thrives as a playmaker is hitting cutters. I think he does a good job of hitting, guys who are backdooring from, either the deep wing or, the far wing or the corners. I think pretty much every time Dalen Terry looked to hit, one of his teammates cutting in backdoor situations, he pretty much always got the ball to them. And he's also able to deliver these backdoor cuts in tight windows. If let's say a guy is coming over, if a guy's splitting the court and he's kind of coming over, anticipating the pass, and then let's say Dalen Terry's teammate's defender who is recovering from being backdoored, Dalen Terry would be able to fit the ball in between those two guys, which is something that was really impressive. And I think that's something that's really going to help Dalen Terry transfer to the next level. And I think Dalen Terry also did a good job of hitting his big men when they were posting up, both Ballo and Koloko, putting the ball in spots where only they could get it. So I really like Dalen Terry as a playmaker moving forward. And I think Dalen Terry is also a very solid spot-up shooter, has very nice mechanics on his shot, gets a nice arc on his shot. It's high, has a nice release on his shot. I think his base is a little bit narrow, which affects him in a certain way, which we'll talk about later. But as a spot-up shooter specifically, I really like Dalen Terry. As you guys can tell, he's a very off-ball player, connective tissue kind of player. And I think all these strengths kind of really symbolize that. But one of my also big strengths for Dalen Terry is just his energy that he brought to the court. He was a leader out there for Arizona. He was a very energetic player, hyping up his teammates all the time. And if you hear anything from the players in that locker room, they'll tell you that Dalen Terry energy was infectious. If you ask Dalen Terry himself, he says that he tries to go out there and be, the energizer buddy of the team. And I think, NBA teams can really value that, just having a young guy that is that energetic, that passionate out there, can be one of the vocal leaders of your team. I think that's something that NBA teams will really value in the later picks in the first round, and also in the second round as well, where Dalen Terry currently projects to fall in the draft. However, moving on to the defensive side of the floor, excuse me, the defensive side of the floor, where I really like Dalen Terry as a point of attack defender. Being 6'7", lanky, with that 7 foot wingspan, great. He has, I wouldn't say great. He has very good lateral footwork, and he also has very active hands. He brings that energy onto the defensive side of the floor, which allows him to cover multiple positions. I think at the NBA level, he will be able to guard some of the bigger, not necessarily the quickest of guards, but some of the bigger, slower point guards, as well as shooting guards and as well as small forwards. I think some of the smaller power forwards, he can cover them in spot minutes as well. But, just his length, with his footwork, with his active hands, I think he's going to serve to be a very solid defender at the NBA level, or at least has the upside to become a very solid on-ball defender at the NBA level. However, I really like him as a strong side defender, where he does a great job of picking off passing lanes, getting those steals with those active hands of his. And I think he does a great job of calling out actions, telling teammates where to go. Part of being, that vocal leader out there on the court is, helping, tell guys where to go, helping direct them through traffic on the defensive side of the floor, telling them to switch and whatnot. And Dalen Terry does that to a T, which I think, again, is one of his strengths, and shows, a part of his leadership that he brings that he not only brought to Arizona, but will hopefully bring to whatever team does end up selecting him in this year's draft. Moving on to some concerns I do have regarding Dalen Terry. First up, I do want to talk about his on-ball shooting, which isn't great, and I think a large part of that is due to the extremely narrow base that Dalen Terry has. His base is not wide whatsoever, and I think that really messes with him in terms of being an on-ball shooter, since his it just looks very awkward out there when his legs are just so close together. I think it really hurts him in terms of being able to shoot you know on the dribble shots and really pull up, especially with a hand in his face. I think it's very awkward, and it just doesn't look comfortable for him out there. So I think maybe getting a little bit of a wider base can definitely help him in that aspect. But another big reason why he's not a great on-ball shooter is just because he doesn't necessarily do it that often. And another big reason for that is because he's just not the focal point of an offense. And I just don't think he ever will be the focal point of an offense. So in turn, I don't think Dalen Terry can ever be, a true lead guard, or potentially even, a strong secondary creator, just because unless that base really changes, and I think he just garners a lot more aggression, because I think there were a lot of opportunities for Dalen Terry in situations for Arizona this year to be aggressive and go get his, where he just didn't. So unless, the aggressiveness changes and, some of the mechanical issues with his pull-up shooting changes, I don't ever see Dalen Terry really being a serious on-ball threat at the NBA level. Don't get me wrong, just based off all of his strengths, he should be a solid off-ball player, but just in terms of, being an on-ball creator, I just don't think it's ever going to happen. I think he's going to be a solid off-ball player, but in turn, I do think that hurts him. He will never be, a primary offensive initiator. Maybe a secondary one, but again, you in today's NBA, you need to be a self creator in order to be, a threat, in order to initiate offense. They kind of go hand in hand in today's NBA, and I think that does hurt Dalen Terry's stock, in that aspect as well. And I think his finishing is. He can finish with either hand. Don't get me wrong. He can finish with his left. He can finish with his right. However, I think he can struggle to finish in traffic sometimes. And I think a large part of that is just due to the fact that even though he is, 200 pounds, solid weight, he doesn't necessarily carry that weight the best. He's very lanky right now. So I think, putting some weight on, being able to be learning to, adjust through contact and whatnot as he develops. I think that's part of his game that he will definitely flesh out. However, I think the big weaknesses with Dalen Terry right now is just the on-ball shooting, as well as just really his lack of aggressiveness. Moving on to some concerns I do have regarding Dalen Terry. First up, I do want to talk about his on-ball shooting, which isn't great, and I think a large part of that is due to the extremely narrow base that Dalen Terry has. His base is not wide whatsoever, and I think that really messes with him in terms of being an on-ball shooter, since his it just looks very awkward out there when his legs are just so close together. I think it really hurts him in terms of being able to shoot on the dribble shots and really pull up, especially with a hand in his face. I think it's very awkward, and it just doesn't look comfortable for him out there. So I think maybe getting a little bit of a wider base can definitely help him in that aspect. But another big Moving on to Dalen Terry's outlook at the NBA level, I think this is pretty straightforward, similar to the previous video on Jake LaRavia, where I think his floor is a G League / end of the rotation player. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, just simply because he's not going to be a threat to score with the ball in his hands. He's going to be a good cutter, potentially a good spot up shooter. We're talking about just right off the bat, and if nothing improves in his game, right? That's what I mean by his floor. It's probably at a league average rate, probably at like price, he'll probably be like a 32 to 33, 34% 3-point shooter. Not necessarily the best with the ball in his hands, potentially not even a threat to score with the ball in his hands, right? While being a solid cutter, primarily, scoring as a cutter and whatnot, but not just being a complete zero with the ball in his hands as a scoring threat, I think will really hold Dalen Terry back from day one. But I do think he will show some flashes as a versatile, point of attack defender while bringing some of that energy to the team. So I could see him getting some spot minutes here and there, but I think he's primarily, a backup end of the rotation guy, a guy who you put in when you're getting blown out or you're blowing out the other team, right? Or at the end of the season, when either your season's over or you're a playoff contender, and you just need some bodies out there, right? I think Dalen Terry's that kind of guy, but I expect him in his first season to get a lot of G League reps, a lot of G League minutes, and kind of develop, that on-ball scoring, which is really his swing skill. I think his median outcome is as a solid rotation piece where he just continues to develop with all the little things, right? He develops a little bit with the ball in his hands. He continues to add strength, and that helps with his finishing and also his defensive versatility. So that allows him to be, still not a primary creator, but a decent secondary creator who really thrives without the ball in his hands, can initiate offense and whatnot. Really just be that glue guy that he was at Arizona at the NBA level, and also be a versatile point of attack defender and a big leader, big locker room presence, or not, maybe not a big locker room presence, but a very solid locker room presence for whatever team drafts him. So that's a solid rotation piece, right? That's nothing special, but it's if Dalen Terry ends up becoming a solid rotation piece at the NBA with this skill set, being a versatile point of attack defender, a guy who can hit open threes, initiate some offense, cut, really score without the ball in his hands. He's looking at a very long NBA career. And then his ceiling, I think, is as a quality starting guard. And again, his ceiling is if everything goes right, right? And the only way for him to become a quality starting guard, in my opinion, is for him to develop with the ball in his hands. And that's really it. That's really it. I think he's going to figure it out defensively, right? I think he's going to figure it out as a spot up shooter, right? But the key for Dalen Terry is if he can develop with the ball in his hands, fix some of those mechanical issues. That's the only reason, or that's the only path to Dalen Terry becoming, a quality starting guard. And I think, again, if that shot creation becomes better, I think he does have a path to reaching that. And some comparisons I do have for him is I think he has shades of Dalen, right? I think very similar players, some of those taller guards who can, initiate the offense a little bit, score a little bit without the ball in his hands, but their calling card is kind of, being, one of those versatile defenders. But Dalen Terry really being a non-factor on the offensive side of the floor for the most part, especially with the ball in his hands, really hinders him. And I think that's the most straightforward comparison for Dalen, from day one, Dalen. However, I do throw in Lonzo Ball as kind of like a ceiling where Lonzo Ball is a very good defender, right? I think Dalen Terry could see, that avenue, right? One of those big, long, versatile on ball defenders at the guard position, while on the offensive side of the floor, even though Lonzo Ball isn't necessarily a threat in the half court, he can still get out in transition. He's a threat in transition and can really shoot the hell out of the ball off ball, which I think that is one of Dalen Terry's another potential avenue for Dalen Terry to become, a quality starter is kind of like that Lonzo Ball role where, okay, you're not going to be much of a threat with the ball in your hands in the half court, but you can shoot the hell out of the ball. So I think, those are two similar players. I think Dalen Wright is more so a comparison for Dalen from day one, as opposed to Lonzo Ball being, a comparable ceiling or outlook for Dalen Terry to kind of mimic and hopefully develop into a similar level of player as Lonzo Ball as he continues to grow and as he continues to learn and become accustomed to the NBA game. However, I like Dalen Terry as a prospect. Again, a glue guy, really like him. I had him mocked to the Warriors in my mock draft. I think that's a perfect fit. He would be a perfect fit in that second unit, tall, versatile point of attack defender who will fit right in with all those Golden State wings. And I think he can initiate the offense for the Golden State for Golden State for their second unit. Playoff Jordan Poole, let Jordan Poole kind of dominate the offense while he starts off the offense, initiates it, and he's just a very solid off ball piece. In that Golden State Warriors offense, hitting all their cutters. I think it's a match made in heaven. So I love his fit there. And I think he's, as I stated, going to the Warriors 28. I think he's the end of the first round, early second round kind of guy. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about Dalen Terry in the comment section. Did I get it just about right with him? Do you guys think he's a little bit higher than, a late first kind of guy? Do you guys think he's, a bit of an early 20s guy, maybe a late lottery guy? I know, or late teens guy. I've seen a lot of people rank Dalen Terry in that area. Or do you guys think he's lower than that, in a clear second round pick? Let me know what you guys think about Dalen Terry in the comment section. But aside from that, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have subscribed, please share the video with a friend. I want to keep growing this channel, keep growing the community that we have here. And again, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and have a blessed day. Take care and peace.